May of last year, Tucson-based African children's charities brought a little boy here from Uganda. He desperately needed spinal surgery, but that goodwill mission to save his life has evolved into an international custody battle. Here's Sean Mooney with the N4 Tucson investigation.
The last time N4 Tucson reported on little Lewis, he had just been returned to a woman who claimed to be his legal guardian by order of the Ugandan government. Since then, after months of legal wrangling and a near exit, the little boy we've followed since he arrived here is back where it all began, in Tucson. At this point, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. Was little Lewis really found in a dump next to a cemetery in Uganda? Is he really an orphan? The latest revelations even question how old he is. What began as a mission to save a little boy has put a humanitarian organization's and a caregiver's motives in question.
I helped the child because he was on the jaws of death.
There were a lot of mistakes made, and that we should have had better vetting of the caregiver before we brought someone over. We certainly should have had some better documents.
We do know that Lewis, or rather Luwazi Muhammad, after arriving in Tucson last May, underwent surgery to correct a debilitating spinal deformity caused by tuberculosis. The procedure went well, and under the care of African children's charities, Luwazi was soon back on his feet, going through rehabilitation and even going to school. It was at that time Joan Nachabuka, the woman who claims to have found Luwazi and who was brought over to the U.S. as his caregiver, had a falling out with the ACC. The organization continued to care for the boy. Nachabuka launched an effort to take custody through the Ugandan embassy, claiming the ACC's motive was to find Luwazi a home in the U.S. and to profit from the adoption. It worked. On Friday, December 5th, accompanied by the Oro Valley Police Department, DCS, and a representative from the Ugandan government, Luwazi was picked up at the school he had been attending and turned over to Joan Nachabuka.
My documents are really good, and that's what I want to explain to the court. They can't decide without me.
In the meantime, cut off financially from ACC, Joan Nachabuka attempted to raise money to return to Uganda, where she says she has 3 other children. Nachabuka also filed for asylum here in the U.S., a strange move for someone who said she was desperate to return to her native country. Nachabuka claims she did it out of fear for her family.
I did asylum because my family back home is in danger.
Nachabuka says that danger came in the form of threats from the ACC. Edward Booker, the attorney representing the organization, says nothing could be further from the truth. And that tale is only part of Nachabuka's trail of deceit.
A magistrate in Uganda signed an order, and his finding was that Ms. Nachabuka had forged documents to obtain custody of Luwazi.
Booker says the deeper they looked into Luwazi's short life in Uganda, the stranger the story became. Luwazi was first thought to be an orphan, with both parents lost to AIDS and no other living relatives. ACC learned that a grandmother existed. With that came more revelations, that Luwazi wasn't found left abandoned, and that his age is closer to 7 rather than 8. As the ACC was learning all this, Luwazi remained in the custody of Nachabuka. In January, she says she met Carlos Machar at a church. Joan and Luwazi soon moved in with Machar, and on Friday, March 23rd, the two were married. Machar says he is a U.S. citizen, but Nachabuka says the union has nothing to do with her wanting to become a citizen of the U.S.
I did not get married to become a citizen. I was in need of the husband. So
despite seeking asylum and a new marriage, Edward Booker says the ACC received word that Joan had obtained tickets for the trip home and would be leaving in just a few days. Nachabuka says it was all true. The tickets completely paid for by the Department of Child Safety.
We filed an emergency petition and were able to get an emergency order and warrant to retrieve Luwazi so that he could be, so that this could be sorted out in court.
On March 31st, under a Pima County Superior Court order, Luwazi was removed from the Midtown apartment where Joan Nachabuka was living and turned over to African Children's Charities.
They just came and snatched the child without me knowing what is going on.
He's really happy to be back here. It's all hugs and kisses, and he keeps thanking me.
Last week, the same judge who issued the emergency order held up his decision, granting African Children's Charities custody for 90 days. Do you want to go back to Uganda?
No,
Why not?
because I like to stay here.
For now, the boy known as Little Lewis will stay here. But it is clear his uncertain journey is far from over.
African Children's Charities was responsible for bringing him over, and we have the responsibility of taking care of him and then returning him.
The truth will remain the truth, and I very well know that I'm gonna get him back.
The Department of Child Safety sent an email saying the department did not dispute Joan Nachabuka's claim regarding the purchase of airline tickets. When I inquired why those tickets were provided while the custody of Luwazi was still being decided by the courts, DCS said it could not provide any more information while the case is still pending. If you have a story you'd like us to investigate, email us at investigators@KVOA.com or call 955-4444. Investigating for you, Sean Mooney, News 4 Tucson.